Open this meeting, the ordinary council meeting agenda on the 19th of September 2023. In the event of an emergency, the building may be evacuated. You will be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and art gallery buildings. This is council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the building until all clear has been given and the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of the council staff will assist any member of the public with a disability to vacate the building. 1.1, is there any apologies?
We have apologies this evening from Councillor Tammy Greenhouse, and I believe you're looking at 5.1 for the Mayor, Mr Hamling.
Yes, sir.
Happy to move apologies, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And also we want to move the 5.1 up.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover and have a seconder, please? Kinghorn and all in agreement? Thank you. Moved, carried. Thank you. 2.1, live streaming and recording. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that when you speak at this council meeting, that you are make sure that you ensure you speak into the microphone, you're respectful to others, and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamation or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this. A recording of this council meeting will be made for administration purposes. I'll move on to 1.3. I wish to acknowledge that we're gathering on the amazing country of the Wiradjuri people. Elders past, present, are coming. Also extend that acknowledgement to any other First Nation people who may be gathered here today. And welcome everybody here today. Good to see so many people. Okay, 1.4, declaration of conflict of interest. Is any member here today? Councillor Winton.
Mr Deputy Mayor, I have a pecuniary interest in item 5.9. My company is a consulting company to McPhillamys Gold project, so I will not be taking part in the debate and will retire from the chamber.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. I have a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in the late item 5.10, the small donations for Mr Perfect Barbecue donations, as I am co-host of the event, and I will take no part in the voting process.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I declare a significant non-pecuniary interest in item 5.4, as I'm a member of the working group, so I'll retire from the chamber and not partake in the debate, and a significant non-pecuniary interest in 5.7 as CSU is a major sponsor of the Orange Business Awards upcoming. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr Chair, I'd just declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest in 5.7, the road renaming, because I work for the National Tertiary Education Union with staff members at Charles Sturt University, but given the decision, I don't see having any implications for working conditions or other factors at the university. I'll remain in the chamber and participate.
I have another, Mr Deputy Mayor. 5.7, the issue, a company that I sit on the board of, a lot of work with scholarship programs for CSU, so it is a pecuniary interest, so I will...
Thank you, sir. I always wish to put a non-pecuniary interest on 5.4. Which is the voice, and I will be staying in the chamber because there's just a question on notice and report back to the chamber. Have now for 1.5, which is the opening prayer. I would wish to welcome the Minister of Orange United Church, Andrew Cunningham, to lead us in prayer. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, thank you, and let us pray. Holy One, known by many, many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, and Spirit of justice, we ask your blessings on the people who've been called to lead the community in which we live and work and play. Remind them and all of us that all in this council area, First and Second Peoples, migrants, people in all their diversity, people of faith, atheists, all are our neighbours, our siblings, and that throughout the ages prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least of those among us, our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body, mind, or spirit, the strangers and immigrants, those who live on the margins and those who are alone, those who are forgotten. Grant this council and us the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that is holy and sacred, hold good and right and true. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Cunningham. Okay, council, there is one late item before you. We need a resolution to permit the report to be heard. 5.10.
Happy to move that, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
And could I have a second on that there, please? All in agreement? Thank you. Move. Okay, councillors, we will now move into the open forum. We've got a few here tonight. A couple that Nardo on nowadays. And we have a few here today. So items 5.10 will be the small donation grants program, part 1, Mr. Perfect, and health barbecue. And Phil, I'd just like to. Hey? We can't. Can we hear you, sir? We can't hear him. We just have a audio problem at this moment, Mr. Houston. We have an issue.
Doubt that he can see.
Oh, okay. So we'll just.
That, Phil?
You hear us, Phil? Can you hear us? Thank you. Just trying to work on it now.
Veronica, can you come on screen, please, and say something?
Good evening.
You.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. Back on mute. Thank you. It's on your end, Mr. Donato. We're going to have to ask you to. Can you disconnect and reconnect, please? Try that. On your end, yep. Reminds us all of the COVID years, doesn't it?
How's that, Mr.?
Uh,
No. Still no audio from you, so.
Still can't hear you, but you can hear us. Might have to change your microphone on your machine. Mr. Chair, I know
Don't have any other speakers.
Mr. Donato actually has to make a speech in Parliament in 5 minutes, so that's why we're holding. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a text saying I have to go down to the chamber and speak, and I think that means we'll move to the next speaker. Can we reschedule? He says. I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Your meeting, Mr. Chair.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will move on. I would like to ask Jill Hindmarsh, who will be speaking on the Rural Australians for Refugee in Orange, please. Thank you, Jill. Don't mind, I'll just quickly give a round introduction to all the councillors. Is that all right? Thank you. On my left here, we have Councillor Whitton. We have Councillor McDonnell. We have Councillor Mallard. We have Councillor Peterson. We have Councillor Floyd. We have Councillor Evans. Also have Councillor Kinghorn and Councillor Whiteness.
Good evening, Mayor. Gentlemen. I'm Marsh. I'm Chair of the Rural Australians for Refugees in Orange. The 75 commonly known as RAR. Council is actually responsible for 2017 approached Council to have a motion that Orange is a refugee welcoming city. And then again in 2021, with the fall of Afghanistan, the motion came to Council asking that they reaffirm that commitment. So this motion that's going forward today is another step in the direction of demonstrating support for asylum seekers and refugees. There's over 100,000 people still waiting for permanent visas. While they wait, often don't have access to Medicare, Centrelink, health services, education. Not sure how many people realise, people who are on temporary protection visas, their children may go to school, may do year 12, but by the time they get to year 12, they then have to still pay international student fees. So if these children are to ever settle in Australia, there's obstacles all the way. As many of you are aware, we've had 10 families come to Orange from Ukraine. The visa situation changed back in August, September last year, and they were no longer giving humanitarian visas because Russians were not targeting them individually. So they didn't fit the criteria for a humanitarian visa anymore. So many of them have arrived on tourist visas. to wait at least 3 months to actually get a temporary protection visa. So in those three months, they're in limbo. They have no access to Centrelink, second language classes, are unable to rent a house. It's really quite, they've just left a war-torn country, and yet our welcome here can be very difficult. So the question that's going ahead is it's just getting another approach to where we can actually the government to do more and to so have been involved in helping to settle the refugees, particularly the Ukrainian ones, in the recent months. So these people are now employed in the mine. There's 4 working at the ex-services club. They're hairdressing, they're working in Philip Shaw Winery, conservatory music, Landers Music, working in construction and farming. That's just, 8 families at this. They couldn't work for that first 3 months. Bills and so everyone said, housing for these people. Well, we have found housing. These people have now renting properties. As people may be aware, we renovated the convent at Molong, led by Pip Waters. So the day-to-day helping these people, approaching care, bank accounts, dental care, what that goes in to supporting these people. And obviously you're all aware of Annie Gallagher. Work very closely with stations, including council, and we're appreciative of what you do. Sure, if there's anything else. Rural Australians for Refugees, we've provided finances. Driving lessons, transport, training for employment, incidentals. It is a joy of Australian refugees to welcome these people and walk beside them, advocate for them, and that's why we're here today. We've got more people coming, probably more Afghan families are in the pipeline. If the visa situation is improved, we will $500 a year isn't asking too much. That phrases.
Thank you, Jill. Okay, moving on. We have Paula Townsend, but unfortunately she is unable to. We have all been provided a copy, but I would like to ask the CEO to read out her.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Paula Townsend writes on the subject of Leeds Parade renaming, the road known as Leeds Parade, formerly Showground Road, doesn't need to be changed for the 1 kilometre stretch from the Northern Distributor Road to the University. The change will make it difficult with 3 different names from Summer Street being William Street, Leeds Parade and University Way. There are also families with properties in that area who've been there for many decades. Cal Sturt University has only been operating at the site for 17 years and in that time have requested 2 name changes. Please consider the residents who live in the area. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Move on now to point 2, which is Merrill minutes. Unfortunately, there's no Merrill minutes tonight. So we do have a couple of guest speakers or invited speakers here tonight. Site Inspector Mayer, the Superintendent Gorman, Orange Police, to update Council on recent.
Thank you for inviting me along today, Deputy Mayor. I apologise, Mr. Gorman, Superintendent Gorman, couldn't make it tonight. He's here tonight. I don't know able to attend. Police are aware of the issues throughout Orange, recent issues. We continue to work towards meeting the expectations of the local community and want to make sure this is a safe and inviting place to attend. We engage with the community and work with council in relation to the DV forums and the youth hubs to make sure that we're engaging with the members of the community and making it as safe as possible. In many instances, police continue to see property theft that is largely opportunistic and it can be prevented by police and local residents working together. Over the recent time, we have investigated a large number of incidents and are finding that the majority of the car thefts and break-in enters show no form of forced entry. It's opportunistic crime. It's important to reinforce that the members of the community lock and secure both their homes and vehicles, even for a short period of time, and make sure within vehicles that they remove their valuables. Our message is very clear for our local community. Everyone in our community deserves to be safe and feel safe. We cannot do this if we do not work together and everyone plays their part. Police are working to address these incidents. We have powers to interact with possible offenders in attempts to reduce crime. If we believe there's a reason for someone not to be in an area or that they may have something illegal upon them, police have powers to make sure that we can search them or move them from the area. To do this, we ask that the local residents and local members of the community contact police and assist us with identifying people that shouldn't be in the area. Police also utilise the Parental Responsibility Act if they believe a juvenile is at risk of physical harm or may be in danger of abuse. This is a fantastic avenue to use for police, and it is all based on what has been put forward by this local council. We appreciate that. We're working closely with shopping centres in relation to the antisocial behaviour that occurs in those shopping centres. When police are informed that the incidents have occurred, we are attending and ensuring that appropriate action takes place. There's a crime committed, we are charging the offenders and placing them either on conditional bail or not to return to those shopping centres before they go to court, or applying for apprehension of violence orders, which we have done a number of times to prevent those people from approaching shopkeepers and protecting those shopkeepers. We will continue to do so. Central West Police District have a very proactive approach to engaging with the youth, and we utilise the facilities that council provide within the community. Throughout this school term, the youth officers and the PCYC, which is a fantastic facility that council own, have engaged with 242 participants from the various schools. Police have engaged with 111 participants at Canobolas High, as well as 72 participants at Anson Street Learning Centre. And we engage with those on a regular basis to try and work and build relationships. Youth officers have been working with 34 children in the local high schools in relation to a Fit for Learning program, which is a program to make sure that they're ready to learn within the school environment, hopefully get a proper education. Whilst our young youth officers are working closely with various organisations, such as your DV facilities, the domestic violence facilities, and your youth officers, in case managing some of our very high-risk juveniles. In August, police have issued warnings, cautions, conferences and charges to 38 juveniles in Orange. There's a high number, but there's a number of juveniles that have been repeat offenders. If it is appropriate that they are charged, they are placed in conditional bail that is hopefully ensuring that they are following curfews and other restrictions. Police regularly check on these offenders to ensure that they are following their bail conditions, such as curfew. Finally, I'd like to ask that the community is vigilant in attempting to prevent opportunistic crime. We do live in a safe environment and a safe community of Orange. The majority of incidents are opportunistic, such as offenders just discovering that a car door is open. We want this to remain a safe place. Remember to help keep yourself safe. Ensure that your premises cars are locked even for a short time. Importantly, we need residents to report any suspicious activity to local police or utilise the police assistance line of 131 444. If you see someone that shouldn't be in your neighbourhood that you believe may be up to something that they shouldn't be, please call those numbers, or in an emergency, call AAA. The more that people report to us, the more activity we can get and try and address these issues. That's about it, but we do work really closely with the DV network that's in town, and we work closely with your youth officers that are outstanding. Any councillor wants to talk about any individual incidents offline, please just approach me after this meeting and we can discuss those incidents.
Can I just ask a question? I think I'm
Sorry,
entitled to do that.
No, sorry. Yeah, no
Sure, okay.
questions. Yeah. After the meeting would be fine. Okay, our next guest speaker, I would like to invite Judy Stomp from the Country Education Foundation to provide council with a note.
Good evening, Mr Deputy Mayor and councillors, and I thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. Judy Stump's my name. I'm the fundraising officer from the Orange and District branch of the Country Education Foundation. We have been going since 2011 and our committee is made up of approximately 12 volunteer community members. We cover the local government areas of Orange, Blaney and Cabonne. Country Education Foundation is a 30-year-old, highly respected national charity, and we want you to know that the national head office is based here in Orange, in Hill Street, opposite the Old Bowling Club, and we are very keen to raise the awareness of that fact. So what do? We encourage young school leavers to go on to post-school education and build employability skills. But for rural kids, this of course means moving away from home to a metropolitan area. And so our program aims to support them in facing the financial and emotional barriers to achieve their goals. We do this in two ways. First, we select approximately 25 students per year from our applicants based on financial need and commitment to their course. And depending on their financial situation, we offer them small grants of between $500 to $3,500. This money is never given to them. Instead, it is used to reimburse them for costs associated with studying and living away from home, and they must show an invoice as evidence. An example might be for the purchase of a laptop or buying a bed for their accommodation in Melbourne, or paying a gas bill, or perhaps just purchasing a ticket to return to Orange. The other way we help students is through a buddy system. Each of the volunteer committee members supports 2 or 3 students throughout the year, and this provides a student with encouragement and support in overcoming the hurdles that young people face. And sadly, that support doesn't always come from the home. How do we fund this? All funds are raised locally through donations, and annually we aim to raise $40,000 to $50,000 a year. The funds are raised in the year prior to the intake. So this year we are busy raising funds to support the 2024 students. Donations come from the following sources: councils, And we thank the Orange City Council for the grant of $2,500 this year. Laney and Cabon councils likewise have supported us. Community organisations such as Millthorpe Village Committee, Zonta, Ionians also support us. Local businesses, for example, Ashcroft's IGA, Flowers and Townsend Real Estate Agencies, Rabobank, Greater Bank Central West, and many, many individuals support us, and some charitable trusts. Donations are all tax deductible, as we have the deductible gift recipient 1 status. All monies donated are received by the National Office in Orange, who retain 10%, and 90% is distributed back to the local group. And of that, 100% of this is spent on student grants. So far, our only expense has been our welcome night held in the Botanic Gardens, and this year all catering was generously donated by Domino's North Orange. Next April, we will be holding our first fundraising event, which will also serve to help raise awareness of this charity. So, the 2023 cohort. They are a truly amazing group of this time 30 young people. And I want to give you a picture of the sort of courses that they are studying. We have students studying 25 different courses, and they include commerce, business, actuarial studies, renewable engineering, fine arts, design, performance, music and dance. Several doing nursing. We have people studying vet science, dentistry, medicine, physiotherapy, education and exercise science, law, carpentry and agriculture. What an amazing group. These students are studying at 17 different institutions, including 3 at the University of Melbourne, 7 at the University of Sydney, 3 at the University of Wollongong, 11 at the various Charles Sturt campuses, and we have 2 students at our local TAFE in Orange. And this is pretty much the same every year. We in Orange have now helped well over 150 students, and we're deeply proud and committed to what we do. These are all skills that one day may be brought back to our community. And so once again, I thank the Orange City Council for investing in the training and education of our young people. Your support also helps us raise awareness of what we do. I'd like to now invite my colleague Lisa Carrick from the National Office to say a few brief words. And incidentally, applications are now open for next year's cohort. That can be accessed through the national website, and we've distributed a few brochures. Thank you, Lisa.
Speak to you so Judy is one of our fantastic volunteers of CEF Orange, which is one of 45 committees. So I suppose I just would like to take a little bit of time to put sort of the broader picture of what CEF does, and the support that you're doing directly to their grants is also doing for more broadly rural and regional students. We know that rural and regional students, financially distant, they have unique challenges. We're about closing that gap. We are based at there. We had the office donated to us in 2019. So we've got some amazing supporters that want to see us succeed. My role is head of community, which is quite a flash way of saying community liaison and development. My role is to look after, help them do what they need to do, provide them collateral applications. But what we also aim to do is raise aspirations of our students, make it possible online resource so students access and see what the opportunities are for them, options they have in terms of going to uni, going to TAFE, taking a gap year. Also partner with universities. So just been running around to Swinburne, taking students there. We've just taken students to any of the CSU campuses. About to go to UNSW, where we're taking 35 students on a all expense paid 3 days just to experience it. So once these kids can do it, not so scary. We also partner with so the partnering with the universities also then leads to co-funding. Our strength is for our committees hard to raise funds, and then we go and source more funds. Universities will match funding, have philanthropic partners, so our vet students don't miss out. First years and second years will get that matched as well. So students can find sources from different areas. Extra, which is exclusively for our candidates, funded by the likes of Audi Foundation, FedEx. So they then go ahead and get these scholarships that then they can further continue with their study. As we mentioned, so they do all the selection of the students. They look after these students. After they've become a part of our alumni, we also have support mechanisms, mentoring programs, alumni portals, and we are just about to close our nominations in our Alumni of the Year. So we have categories, and right, these kids are extraordinary. We also support our local foundations with their match funding. So if perhaps anyone felt they would like to donate to CEF Orange, these 2 months they'll be matched up to $5,000. So just we're trying to do everything so that we can make our communities more vibrant with our regional students. So 30 years we've up to nearly 8,000 students, allocated over $17 million. So with your support and with the community, thank you very much for the support thus far. Thank you.
Councillors, we just think, can we hear you? Most important.
Stand by, we can't hear
Still
you.
can't hear you.
Really on your system.
Try putting your phone on speakerphone. It's your end, Mr. Donato, I'm sorry. Not my phone, he says. Called an impasse. Let's try this. Why don't you call my mobile and we'll put you on speakerphone. Stay online as well. Called being agile. Here we go. Okay, I've got you on. Can
you hear me? Yep.
How are we going? Yep, okay.
I'll just close this down.
No.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Everyone, councillors? Okay. Hold on a sec, Mr. Donato. Okay, all yours, Mr. Donato.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, councillors. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry for that. I'm not sure what's the matter with the computer here, but anyway, we've been able to resolve it. Look, I just wish to address council in relation to several comments that were raised at the Orange City Council meeting on the 5th of September 2023, which I was personally named and referred to, and which the footage I've recently viewed. Specifically in relation to an application for a council grant of $2,500 on behalf of the Mr. Perfect Men's Health Organisation. Let me be clear from the outset, I had no knowledge or involvement in the application for the grant, Mr. Perfect Men's Health Barbecues. party to the application or even named in it. My name being linked to this. The application was made by the CEO of the organisation, who is well entitled to make this. It was done so without my knowledge, influence, or encouragement. And to answer some of the queries as to how Mr. Perfect is funded. Mr. Perfect is a grassroots men's mental health initiative that relies predominantly on corporate support and the occasional small community grant. It is run completely by volunteers. I've been the host of barbecues for almost 3 years now, volunteering my time, about 4 or 5 hours a month, along with councillors Glenn Floyd, Matt Barr, a registered nurse, occasionally my brother-in-law, and a couple of my sons who help out from time to time. Men's health. None of us derive a cent. We all volunteer to do this freely in our own time. I agreed to be the host of Mr. Perfect Barbecues as I saw there was a void in this area for men in our community, and I used my position as a local MP and a community leader and encouraged men to attend, and it has worked extremely well to date. As I was brought into this matter, I feel it appropriate that I respond to some of the issues in debate for the clarity and information of council. On average, we probably get about 30 men attend most months, but have on occasions had up to 80 or 90. In August, we had over 50 men attend the barbecue. Men from all walks of life. Professional, retired, young and old, police officers, fireys, ambos, doctors, tradies, nurses, everyone. Even men that work in this very building. That building. They all come for a chat and a social connection over an informal barbecue setting. To suggest that these men are disengaged, I was quite disappointed to hear that your word being used. This statement only adds to the stereotypical view from some in our community when we are talking about being inclusive and removing the stigma surrounding mental health. Extrapolating that over nearly 3 years since these barbecues have been running equates to approximately almost 1,000 men who have attended these barbecues, and not a cent has been sought from council previously. The overwhelming majority of these men are residents and ratepayers of the Orange LGA. On our last barbecue, held on the 10th of September 2023, we had 32 men attend. I played to them the video footage of what was said at the council meeting for them to see and hear and listen to themselves. The overwhelming response was that they were all extremely disappointed by those who spoke against it and the reasons given. Let me be crystal clear if it isn't already. I'm simply a volunteer host like the dozens of others right across Australia who run the Mr. Perfect barbecues in their local communities. And to infer otherwise is totally untrue. Additionally, to make an imputation that somehow I'm holding these barbecues in Cook Park without the necessary approvals is also factually incorrect. If a council had ever bothered checking with council, they would see that I have formal written consent from council to hold these barbecues, especially if one had generally received complaints from the public. I would have thought this would have been raised, if these concerns were legitimate, this would have been raised much before the meeting, especially when councillors received council papers well in advance. Due diligence is carried out, as it should be. One would think that these types of questions or queries would be raised to the General Manager or council staff by councillors well before the council meeting, and certainly well before stating incorrect statements on the public record. In a time when councillors and council generally are so closely scrutinised and critiqued, I would have thought this would be a fundamental basic expectation. It is a shame that local politics is coming to this. This is a worthwhile cause. It saves lives. It's worth getting behind. Even come down for yourself and have a look. Thank you. I have nothing further to say, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for that, Mr. Waddell.
Thank you. That was audible to everyone, so we'll sign off. Wish you a good evening. Thank you. Cheerio. Bye.
Thank you. That was the last speaker, all up to date now. We'll move on to point 3, the confirmation of the previous minutes of the ordinary meeting.
Move the minutes, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
September the 5th. Thank you, Mr. Winton. We have a seconder on that. Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Any questions out there? Questions? Favour? Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to move 5.1 up to this point of time. Is that right?
4.11.
We did 5 point. Oh, sorry. Yeah, cool. Yeah, 4.1. Sorry. Okay, and this is the feasibility study into establishing a pump track in Orange. Councillor Leto, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. There's a motion in front of you, councillors, and it reads that Orange City Council undertake a feasibility study to investigate the design, relevant costings and grant funding opportunities associated with constructing a bicycle pump track here in Orange. Just by
I'm
way
happy
of...
to second that, Mr Mayor,
Have a
Deputy Mayor.
seconder.
Yeah.
You.
I just did.
Thank you, Mr. Mileto.
Thank you. By way of background, Orange already has a large skate park for older children and youth. However, there is nothing similar as far as a pump track is concerned within the Orange CBD or residential areas. And this idea came about after being approached by several people from the public who thought it was a good idea to give young people the opportunity to be more adventurous after they learn to ride their bikes, their scooters or their rollerblades in a friendly, safe environment. It's also aimed at encouraging fitness amongst young people. Note the council comment that there are two facilities already in Orange, but pump track per se is defined as a circuit of rollerblades, bank turns, beams and other features, and can be ridden by riders pumping, which also generates momentum, etc. So, councillors, I would like to put this motion forward and seek your endorsement to back it. Thank you very much.
Discussions with Councillor O'Donnell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I think this is a great idea. I've got a question through you, probably to the to Director Maunder. Not in here, maybe through to the CEO then. Given that we're in the process of redesigning the Adventure Playground, is this something that could be incorporated into that design? Given that that's already a program that's underway.
Through Mr. Chair, well, quite possibly. It's a bit late in the day, but this is a feasibility study. This is a feasibility study, so I'm sure we could try to.
Yep.
And I think the spirit of also, there's a question about Glenroy too. Feasibility study should look at all possibilities, I would have thought. Councillor Peterson had his hand up.
Sorry.
Thank you, and I certainly support the motion. I think it's worth noting that there is a pump track at the Lake Canobolas Mountain Bike Park constructed by the Volunteers Mountain Bike Club. Maintenance of such facilities is an ongoing challenge that the club does have challenges with. Wanting to avoid the BMX track, which fell into unsafe disrepair and had to be removed, we can only rebuild the thing if we are committed and capable of maintaining it.
The question's been answered. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councillor Allard.
Thanks. Just a question through you, I think, to the Director, Mr. Deputy Chair, which is, do we have a plan for a pump track as part of the Glenroy Oval Master Plan? Am I right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the plan for Glenroy is to build a skate park at Glenroy. So we have some grant funding for that and council funding, so that's in progress. We've awarded that work to a company, I've forgotten the name, I'm sorry. There is a small informal track in Glenroy Oval at the moment, which you may be aware of, which the kids use. We provide some soil from time to time, the kids reshape it. But there is in terms of a pump track per se, no, there's not a plan for that in Glenroy.
I did review the master plan, and I'm sure I saw mention of a pump track as well.
Oh, there's a track there now, so it might have been referring to that. So there's no plan to construct one, if that makes sense. So there might well be, I suspect you're right, Councillor, and it might well be on that plan, but there's no immediate plans to construct it.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, well, I'm happy to support the motion from Councillor Mileto, and yeah, my suggestion would be that we examine it as Glenroy Oval as a possibility for it as part of implementing that master plan. I think the skate park's great, and the intention of that, as I understand it, is so kids from Glenroy aren't having to come all the way over to the middle of town to access the skate park. But I think having a bike pump track out there as well would be a great opportunity to actually create an incentive for kids from other parts of town to be heading over to Glenroy, and that we would be seeing better use of that space over there, making it more vibrant, building better connections across the community as well. Thanks.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. As a seconder, I'm happy to support the feasibility study. As Councillor Mileto said, there's we should be focusing a lot on trying to promote activities for the younger members of our community. I agree with Councillor Mallard. I think we should be looking at trying to spread these facilities throughout the city rather than centralising them in one location, because it is difficult to get to, for some children to get to different parts of the city. But I'll wait for the staff to guide us in that direction with their feasibility study.
Councillor Duffy.
Mike.
Sorry, Councillor, we just need to get a refund.
All options, and I think, and that whether it be at the skate park or whether no matter where it is, I look forward to a report coming back, and I intend to support Councillor Mileto's solution.
No other speakers. I'll put the motion to a vote. And moved and carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Mileto, would you like to wish the notice of motion with the recognition of Mr. Bob Russell to the sporting community of Orange?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor and councillors. There's a motion in front of you, and that motion reads that Orange City Council investigate opportunities to recognise a significant contribution made by Mr Bob Russell to the Orange sporting community.
Second that, Mr Chairman. Mr Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. Councillors, and for those people who have grown up in Orange, you would remember Mr Russell as being a bit of an icon when it came to sport. Unfortunately, Russell passed away, and he previously owned a sports store in Orange in the late 60s, 70s and 80s. And I remember when I moved to Orange myself in the 70s, decided as a young person to go into his store and found him to be most helpful. And it didn't matter who you were or where you came from, Bob always had time and to meet your budget. And I think that spelt highly of him as an individual. Not only did he own and operate that family store, he was also a leader in the field of sporting equipment, clothing, and he also participated in a number of sporting clubs. So he not only did he share his knowledge with regards to equipment, etc., but he also had an excellent knowledge of sports in general. The reason this motion came about was because I was approached by several people in the community who thought it may be an opportunity for Orange City Council to recognise his contribution over a long period of time, and that sports store still remains in Summer Street and is family owned and operated, I understand. So that's the motion, councillors, and I'm seeking support. Thank you.
Any speakers on the motion?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'm going to support the resolution. I don't have any problem with supporting it, but I'd like us to be aware that there's more people who've done a lot of things as well in this community. I mean, you look at the likes of Ken McCarran Cullinane and all those sort of things, 28 years with the Show Society. You look at Stewart Sports Store, which is on the centre up there. They were there for decades as well. You've even got community organisations at the moment, all the business houses in town at the moment, which have been here for 50-odd years, nearly 5 decades. So as I said, I'll support the motion, but I just want us to be aware when it comes back that there are a lot of other people in town that probably need recognition some long time ago.
Other speakers on the motion? I'll put the motion to a vote. All in favour, raise your hands. Thank you very much, and carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 4.3. Notion of Lord's Place South pot plants for the primary school design. Councillor,
Thank you, Mr.
I
Chair.
have a second on that there. I'll just move in straight away. Thank you, Councillor Floyd. I'll get my act together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I suppose this came up back in July. So concern as to how it would be met in terms of the costings of it, even though an existing budget with a future cities project. I guess I just don't really have anything further to say, but I'll reserve my right to speak and close it.
Yes, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the motion. I'd like to move that council consider changing Lord's Place South back to its original condition as per the report of last year. If I can get a seconder.
Councillor, we're talking about the pots, not the Lord's Place, as what I'm aware that motion will be coming up to the council.
So you're ruling me out of order, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
The report, this motion is talking about, as on page whatever number it is, works that are under the future cities budget. So under the chamber conditions of the Local Government Act, I can raise an amendment as long as it is within the agenda discussion.
Yeah, are we talking about this, as what I read, is the actual pots, the painting of the pot plants?
Correct, that's the motion, but I'm moving an amendment
but you're
under the Local Government Act.
I feel you're moving amendment to the bigger scale in relation to Lord's Place. Which,
correct. Dead right, yes.
Yeah, but we're talking about getting the pots painted.
But I can move an amendment, Mr. Chairman, within reason of what's on the agenda.
Advise us under what section of the Act?
Excuse me, Mr. Duffy, please, could you take a seat, please? Thank you.
Could you quote me under the Act where you are refusing my ability to raise an amendment, please, in the chamber?
10.11 under the Code of Meeting Practice, I would suggest.
Sorry, that's...
It'd probably be 10.10 or 10.11 under the Code of Meeting Practice, is what I would understand it to be. An amendment to a motion which does not relate to the matter being dealt with in the original motion. You're ruled out of order by the chairperson. This is about the pots.
It says in the report, any works would be funded by the
That's
future
the report,
cities
that's not the motion.
budget.
Would you like me to read it out, Mr.
I think
Chair?
you are in control of the meeting. I'm not used to having
Excuse me,
councillors
Councillor.
debate me directly in the chamber.
Can we just read the actual
Please do.
act out? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, under the Code of Meeting Practice for Orange City Council, Strategic Policy S2TO1.
Which the Local Government Act overrides.
Well, we're going to this, Councillor, which is the Chamber's policy. An amendment to a motion under 10.11, which is what you are proposing, must relate to the matter being dealt with in the original motion before the council and must not be a
All right,
amendment.
Mr. Chairman, thank you,
Sorry?
Mr. Suya. Mr. Chairman, for the sake, you are the chair of this committee. If you are ruling me out of order, I will respect your decision. Thank you, Mr.
Sir.
Chairman.
Are there any other speakers? Thank you, Councillor Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And whilst I can see the spirit of the motion, I have an issue with number 2, and that is because I've been approached by several Indigenous people who are taking exception to point 2 in that it reads that they're being offered what was left over. It said in there somewhere, sorry, the remaining unallocated pots offered to local Indigenous artists. They felt that the concern that was raised with me, that they're a second thought, an afterthought. They would have liked to have been given equal opportunity to paint the same amount of pots as the school students, not as what they explained to me has been an afterthought. That's the way they felt by it. So in light of what those concerns which have been raised by me, I can't support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As we discussed last time, I also really appreciate the sentiment here. I see that it's a good way to try and get people to connect with the space. There has been a lot of unhappiness with it, so I can see where this is coming from. And who doesn't love kids' art? That's great. However, I just think that that artworks are better showcased against a more sort of subtle background than the psychedelic swirly bits that are there, and only 3 of the pots are not on those painted areas, and I just think it will just cause visual discord, and it'll just be confusing, so I actually won't be supporting it.
Other speakers? Thank you,
Yes,
Councillor
thank you,
Dubbing.
Mr. Chairman. I won't be supporting it. I don't believe there should be, as I agree with what Councillor Whitten's saying before. I've been number one against the whole South Orange and even this thing here. And I do agree with Councillor Miletto as regards to dot point 2, an afterthought, and have really serious concerns about that. You know, I'll just let that one go. But it's not a playground. Going to go down there, it's going to be a playground, and has the matter gone in front of the traffic committee? Someone ran over the other day in Lord's Place. So it's going to be a playground where kids are going to run and hide and all these type of things there. It's not a playground. Disneyland. It may look like Disneyland, but, you know, it's, as I said, I can't support it. It's another waste of money, like the golden balls, the dancing bees and the alleyway. I mean, just as simple as that.
Just to the motion,
Waste
so.
of ratepayers' money.
The other speaker?
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to support the motion and thank the staff for bringing the report back. And look, I think to go to the concerns that Councillor Miletto has relayed, I certainly don't think that was the intention of the motion to read in that way, but I think it was a reasoning about the number of pots being available, that you could run a school competition and there will be other pots available, and that those be made available for use as well. I think that's fine. I think we could go ahead with starting to do planning and work on this. I know we've got, as part of implementing Lord's Place South, reviews every 6 months about what's going on with that. I think there's definitely things we're going to look at needing to modify where the implementation hasn't been great. I've commented on, I don't think the aesthetics of the painting on the ground has worked in the way it was intended to work. I think there's issues with that. I think there's issues with particular dining decks. The one outside Nimrod's is an issue for the parallel parking space immediately next to it outside Hotel Canobolis. So I think there are a number of things that we're going to need to do work on. At the same time, I think the principle of what we're doing with our streetscapes and beginning with this block in making them places that are more inviting for people. We're just getting into spring, and we're going to see people making more use of the available space there and narrowing the space so that it's not just all about cars, but it's actually about making the streets places people will come, spend time and stay, is really important. And I do think, as the background to the motion explained, that doing this to try to get a sense of community connection and engagement with that project would be really useful. Thanks.
Have a point of clarification, please, Mr. Chair. I note the no council recommendation. Is that a reason for that?
It's a notice of motion, so it's within the councillors. It's a councillor's motion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to say that before I supported this, and there's no reason why I can't support it again. I had a page to talk about here, but that was on a completely different subject that I can't touch on now. But I can certainly touch on some things in relevance to this is that I personally think that brightening up that area is what is needed down there. I think it looks dull and dreary. And as a couple of people said to me the other day, when I was going through there, it was said by one particular occupant in that area that it just looked tacky. So I think anything to try and beautify the area with this artwork moving forward is certainly going to get my support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Following on from Councillor Mallard's comments, I think there are aspects of this project as a whole that can be revisited, as can these pots. Vinyl wrap that I tend to work with vinyl a bit can be reused, replaced and redesigned. So as we look at the painting that Councillor Mallard's touched on isn't as appealing to the eye depending on the individual. Potentially, as we've done with up in the Lord's, the arcade adjacent to Kmart, where we've sort of scoped all the design, I don't see why we can't be doing that to match what's existing there, and as we modify and adapt the design, so too can the vinyl wraps, and we can redo them annually if we need to. But I don't see any issue with supporting this motion and bringing a bit of vibrancy to the area, as Councillor Floyd's already mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm speaking against the motion. It would be a bit hypocritical of me to support this, given that I'm going to be moving a motion to have Lord's Pace reinstated to its normal operating environment, right? So, listening to the businesses in Lord's Pace, not one business asked for that change in Lord's Place.
But this is not about the Lord's Place update.
I'm speaking, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but I'll let you deal with the point of order, sorry. I am speaking to the reason why I'm not supporting it, because I've been listening to those businesses and the communities down there, right? It would be hypocritical to waste more money on something that we may be removing. As per the report that came to this chamber, the staff reported and gave options to this chamber that if it failed, which it has, it is failed big time, right? The community don't want it, the businesses don't want it, we haven't listened to them. So it will, under that report, there was an option of removal, right? And, so I'll be voting against this motion.
The
clarification is to 0.2 that the remaining unallocated pots be offered to local Indigenous artists. I would tend to think that in the primary schools there are Indigenous artists there already. Is that correct? Could the director is going to Bowen? Is there Indigenous artists going to Glenroy? Is there Indigenous artists at James Sheehan? Is there have a bit of a crack at that one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we haven't run a process yet, so I'm not sure as to who would produce the artwork, but you are correct. There's many children in those schools that have an Indigenous or First Nations background.
Next point of clarification is to the Director of Infrastructure, and that is, I just wondered what the situation is regards to a service vehicle trying to get through there, such as an ambulance vehicle trying to pass each other there.
Sorry.
The reason why I asked that question is because I came through there the other day and there's one of those vehicles trying to get through and there was nowhere for anyone to pull over.
Excuse me, Mr. Director, just 1 second. I don't think we're talking about access of service vehicles. So we're talking simply about the pots. So anything of the pots, not in the, about whether service vehicles are attending. But if the Director would like to just bring some clarification on that there, I will permit the Director to.
The pot plants aren't in Lord's Place blocking anyone.
Yeah. Emergency service vehicles are able to cross over in an emergency into the other lane, so they can use the full width of the remaining street. We certainly have, while we've reduced the width of Lord's Place in that, and with the intention of slowing down speeds and creating sticky edges with the pots and the tree planting and what have you, there's still plenty of room for two vehicles to pass each other on Lord's Place.
I'll hand it back to you. You mind if I have a quick chat? Okay. I'm going to speak for the motion. I think it's a fantastic idea. I live just up the road for that every day. I will travel that street 7-8 times a day. 7-8 times a day. So you'll know I'm living really close to Lord's Place, and that's my runway straight down Lord's Place. I think it's a great initiative. Whatever happens in the future, as what Councillor Evans already said, we can be reusable. Aspects of that. As far as Indigenous artists, I've been the chair of the Orange NAIDOC committee for many, many years. There are amazing artists out there, young people that can be accessed, that can be given an opportunity to do artwork. Then put us through a voting thing to create a beautification for these spots. So on that note, I will be speaking. I'll be voting for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just close the debate. Look, I find it interesting that it's some of the tactics around this motion. Despite the attempt to hijack it, this is not about Lord's Place.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sorry, sir.
What tactics are we referring to? We talking about pots?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, despite the attempts again to hijack a motion and make it about other things, this is about making the area somewhere that, as Councillor Mallard and Councillor Evans and Councillor Floyd mentioned, people want to go and hang out. The speed limit there is going to drop down to 40 very soon as part of the shared pedestrian zone. So we want people to hang out there. That's the whole point of it. The accusation that number 2 is an afterthought, I find really amusing. There are 22 pots in that street. The number of primary schools in Orange is far less than half of that. So it basically works out to be half the pots for primary schools and half for local Indigenous artists. So it's not an afterthought. You'll run out of fingers there, Councillor Duffy. So look, I thank everyone for the constructive debate, and I commend this motion.
Okay. I'd like to put those in favour. Could you raise your hand, please? Yeah, and against, please.
2, 3, 5. Mayor, you have to break the deadlock.
Councillors, I appreciate everybody's comment and taking that on board. I'm very much passionate. So I'll be voting. Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Can I raise a matter arising, Mr. Chairman? I move a motion as per the chamber rules, a motion as a matter of arising from the Lord's Place discussion. I'd like to move a motion that council consider converting Lord's Place back to its original condition. As per the report, it's been a failure, and the businesses in that street are begging us to fix it. We made this decision in this chamber to authorise staff to do the works in Lord's Place, and it is up to this chamber to fix it. The businesses don't want it, the community don't want it. So I'd like to move that motion if I can get a seconder, Mr. Chairman.
Before there is a clarification in relation to this here, and it's a 3.10. The Orange City Council motion. Given notice, a business to be considered at a council meeting must give notice of any business they wish to consider council at its next ordinary meeting by way of notice of motion to be included on the agenda of the meeting. The notice of motion must be in writing and must be submitted no later than 8 days before the meeting to be held. So as what I mentioned before, excuse me, Mr. Duffy, may you sit down? Mr. Duffy, may you sit down, please?
I'll sit down.
You're still talking, sir. Thank you. I know you're passionate about it, sir, but just allow me time to talk. Just allow me time to talk, please, sir. Just allow me time to talk, sir. It's as what I mentioned before. I'm aware that there is a motion coming up, so we can't just pop a motion in there. And
I know. I respect your decision, Mr. Chairman.
And
I know the rules, and they are rules for this council, but they're not rules under the Local Government Act. But again, I respect you as the chair.
Thank you, sir.
You've ruled me out of order, and I will respect your decision. Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. So sorry. No, Mr. Duffy. We can't just go back and forwards. If a motion needs to come forward, we can have 8 days.
Clarification is not about what Councillor Whitten says.
It's been closed over here. Excuse me, sir, sit down.
Okay, don't worry.
Sir, sit down.
Don't worry about it.
No, sir, just respect for a second. I know you're passionate about it.
Should be allowed a point of clarification.
I know you're passionate about it, sir. We've had a closing. We've had an amendment. Had clarity in relation to the rules there. And we just need to abide by it. There's 8 days before the next council meeting. Please submit the motion to the council for us to discuss it. So I'm going to move on. So thank you very much. We're moving on to 4.4. This is the Mayoral Task Force supporting asylum seekers. Councillor Mallard, and
happy to move the motion.
May I have a second with Councillor McDonald, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And I want to thank Jill Hindmarsh and the other members of Rural Australians for Refugees Orange who've come along tonight in support of this notice of motion. And this is really, as Jill explained, building on the connection of community and council that has done some really good work on supporting asylum seekers over the last few years, beginning with the Orange becoming a refugee welcome zone.
Maybe to second do it for a discussion. Sorry, Councillor Mallard.
It's already second.
It's already been seconded,
Thanks.
Sorry.
And then following on to the Afghan Asylum Seeker Working Group, which was what led to the Orange chapter of Rural Australians Refugees being established. I've attended at the last 2 Australian Local Government Association conferences in Canberra, the morning tea of the Mayoral Task Force. I think it's an incredibly well organised group. It's originated out of Victorian councils in particular, and it's the City of Greater Dandenong is the one that does the coordination of it. But I do note that a number of New South Wales councils have joined. That includes areas like Blacktown and Canterbury Bankstown that have very high culturally and linguistically diverse populations, but it also includes regional areas like Wagga Wagga as well. And I think it would be fantastic for us to join this. I think this is an opportunity. We heard earlier in the open forum about the work that we have caring community members doing to support people who are coming to this country and who are coming to settle in this area, and the obstacles that they grapple with. So at one of RA Orange's meetings earlier in the year, we had a lawyer who works with the visas related to this system come and present, and it is ridiculously complicated and technical. What the Mayoral Task Force is looking to do is lobby for a streamlined system where you have both, you give permanent visas, but you also massively simplify the system. And then the other issues relating to the access that these people need. Vulnerable people arrive in the country, they're applying for asylum, and even after they're accepted, they're dealing with the challenges of getting access to the services they need, the training they need, the things that they need to be able to get into work and to be able to start building their new life in this country. So I think this is really an opportunity where the community are working with these things, so both for the benefit of the asylum seekers and for the great community members who do this work supporting them, council can add its voice to do what local government does well, which is lobby state and federal levels of government. And that's what this task force is about. And that's why I think it would be to get involved with it. I did note the staff comment raising concerns about the general level of membership and a couple of items in the terms of reference that had undefined possible contributions to resourcing and activity. So I did contact the task force administrator at Greater Dandenong Council, and what she came back with was to say typical resources and activities which have been asked of member councils in the past relate to the task force's campaigning, such as promotion of the task force's advocacy via councils and or councillors' media channels, writing to local federal MPs and endorsing ALGA motions from the task force. Contribution from member councils is very flexible and in the past has been dependent on the capacity of individual member councils to support these activities when the opportunities arose. More importantly, we encourage members to attend our bi-monthly meetings should you wish to contribute to decision-making on strategic matters of the task force. Representative officer, manager level, serves as a liaison contact with myself, that's the task force administrator, for operational admin and supports handover for new mayors / councillors. So I hope that clarifies it's not like they're going to ask us to kick in $20,000 for a TV advertising campaign or something. And I think that sort of decision would always have to come back to council or be escalated. I don't feel like signing up to general membership commits us to that. And it's a $500 a year contribution effectively to do that. I would note, though, that there is the supporter membership there as a possibility as well. I would hope that we're willing to go in with general membership and actually make an active contribution in this space, because the supporter membership, as I read it, is basically supplying the council logo so they can add it to whenever they send a letter or produce materials, and doing a bit of social media promotion, but not much else. So I'd like us to go further, but I would note that if those concerns are issues for councillors, then there is an option available there of the supporter membership. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to support this 100% because a good friend of mine, who's the former mayor of Leeton, Paul Matum, was highly vocal at Australian local government councils in Canberra, and he's also highly vocal in the New South Wales Local Government Association meeting in placing people in the Leeton area to be involved in, and it was easy to get work in the agricultural industry, the horticultural industry, and all those type of things there. This type of thing has been in front of our councils before. I know I think Councillor Nugent brought it in as regards to that, but it was more restricted. He wanted Afghanistan. Well, I think the council of the day changed their mind and said, hey, we want all asylum seekers there, and I think that was the correct decision of the council at the time. But again, as I said, I support it 100%. I know myself and the CEO met with people from Ukraine when they came here, looking for accommodation and all those type of things there, which I think we assisted in some way, and they're very grateful of that, and along with the lines of the various church organisation. And we do have some wonderful people in our community that are actually really prepared to get out of their chair and help and assist anyone. So I'm going to support this 100%.
Thank you, and I'm certainly happy to support the recommendation as well. I just have a point of clarification, if I get a point of clarification from the CEO with regards to reading the terms, and that it's obviously a complicated and technical matter, which I totally understand and appreciate. I'm also mindful of the fact that council staff are under the pump at the moment, assisting in a number of their external things which council are involved in. I'm just wondering, Adele, does Orange City Council have the staff or the capacity to support this? It seems to be able to do it properly, and whilst I'm supporting it, I'd like to think that if we're going to do it, that we do it properly. So I need to know whether we do have the capacity and the appropriate skilled staff to do that.
And I think through you, Mr. Chair, this is where the staff comment came in about undefined nature. The undefined nature of the obligations. And I think, look, I mean, it's hard to answer the question because we don't know what the obligations actually are. I think if this gets through, the proposer, Councillor Mallard, will have to take what he gets in terms of that, and we'll have to work with Councillor Mallard with managing expectations. I look at this and I think, yes, it's another thing on our menu, and I think I would say now to Councillor Mallard, you won't be getting much staff time on this. You will get what you get. Is it a great deal of staff time, Councillor Miletto? I saw it as some sort of secretariat help from time to time. I saw it mainly as councillors travelling to meetings rather than staff. But again, it's really hard to define. Sorry, I can't answer your question well, but there would be pushback if it became.
You say the council travelling time, which, whilst I still support, it's also part of the budget. If staff and council is required, are we aware of how many meetings per year they'd be required to attend?
My monthly meetings, but I'd indication of whether they're actually online rather than.
I would expect they would be through you, Mr.
You think
Chair.
so?
Yeah, but I wouldn't, for example, be suggesting I'm sending staff to bi-monthly meetings, for example.
No.
I would expect the councillor would cover that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Fully support this motion. Thank you, Councillor Mallard, for bringing it to the chamber. Look, there wouldn't be, I don't believe there'd be a person in this room that hasn't got a family member or loved one or family members in the past that have come to this country as refugees due to conflicts in their home countries. I know my family members are technically refugees well, I won't mention who they are out of privacy, but there wouldn't be too many of us in this room that don't have loved ones and friends that have come to our beautiful country due to conflict. So fully support it. And thank you again, Councillor Mallard. And I think the workload to staff is going to be zero, because I think there's a whole lot of volunteers sitting in the chamber just here that are going to do all that legwork. Oh, and Councillor Mallard, by the way. So well done. Fully support it.
Other speakers? I'd just like to support this wholly. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for those who have come into this amazing nation here of Australia, and even being at the last week, so many different nations making Australia their home. Support it 100%. Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to 5.2, which is now found on page 35. And this is a recommendation for resolution from policy committees. Kind of a move.
Happy to move.
5.2. 3. And may I have a seconder, please? Councillor Evans. Okay, any speakers?
I could move a matter arising in infrastructure, but you're going to rule me out of order, Mr Chairman, so I won't. It's on a technicality. I just want to
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I could, right?
Rightio. Put the motion to an order. Vote, please. All in favour? Against, none. Carried. Thank you. We'll go into 5.3, page 61. The Central West New South Wales Joint Organisation Board meeting, CEO report. I have a mover on that report, please. Second, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and just wanted to say it's fantastic to see now the joint organisation has got on board with campaigning for improved rail services to the Central West, and I know there is some work going on in a meeting tomorrow, I understand, relating to that down Parliament. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that we resolved to support the Orange Rail Action Group's position some time ago, but I think the lobbying from the JO and the looking at the bigger picture stuff, like the idea of having trains going off both towards Dubbo but also out to Parks as well from here would be really valuable. Having worked down in Sydney and travelled on the railways quite a lot during that time, I know there's significant improvements that could be made that would make it a much more useful and valuable mode of transport, and would also save us a whole lot of car travel and air travel and the resulting cost and emissions. Thanks.
Councillor Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I had a question to the Director. Now that raising the wall of Warringah Dam has been rejected, what's the next water infrastructure process that this body will champion?
To that one? Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Just to clarify, the joint organisation have released a media release on the Warringah Dam decision, and they specifically pointed out that in the business case there was no acknowledgement of the benefits of not being of these towns downstream of Warringah Dam not running out of water, which they did have day zero scenarios in the last couple of droughts. So they feel that the economic benefit of the Warringah Dam proposal hasn't been looked at fully, and would support re-looking at that proposal. Not that there's probably much benefit in that going forward. Like with the existing government at this point in time, I'd say they'll leave that decision for at least 12 months. That being said, the JO lobbies on behalf of councils for a range of different water initiatives, including regional pipelines, and we've had several built, but there are several to still be built. They also lobby for the inclusion of the Ulmarra Dam proposal, which is a proposed dam on the Macquarie River at Dixon's Long Point, as a water security initiative, and also things such as managed aquifer recharge and purified recycled water. So there's no one solution in the water space, and they're actively promoting a range of solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As regards to the JO, I think it's probably about time that we bring them in here and question them about some issues that we have with what they're doing. And I noticed the Director of Engineering did mention the Ulmarra Dam, and I think the state government's brought it back on, or the Water Resources Commission, or whatever they are now, have got that back on the table. But I think it's time that we sort of bring them in here to question them. And I take my hat off to the police. They came in here and addressed council with the public as well. They weren't hiding anything. They said what a great job they were doing, whether we agree or whether we don't. It's up to the individuals. But as regards to this is an organisation that represents us and supposed to be doing the right thing about energy. It talks about the costs and, how we're talking about electric vehicles, which we spoke about today at ARIC, as regards to the cost of those vehicles and the dangers involved in those, all those type of issues there, and just see where they're at with this. I mean, I'd much rather see them talking here than having a briefing behind closed doors.
Through Mr. Chair, in fact, the Executive Officer is asked to present to Council. I will tell her open forum. Councillor Duffy, open forum? Absolutely. We'll make that happen.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, any other speakers on this motion? Okay, we'll put the motion. Carried. Thank you very much. We'll move down to page 75 now. It's 5.5. Which is a statement of estimates for August 2020.
5.4. Page 73.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Bad. 5.4.
I'm happy to move it, Mr. Chair.
And the seconder. 5.4, sorry, on page 73. Ask for council.
No.
And
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
any speakers on this motion? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the CEO for bringing this report to us and telling us where we're at. I'm not a supporter of the Voice or against the Voice, so I'm quite happy for people to make an informed decision, irrespective of whether it's where our council goes. And our council chose to support the yes vote, and by a majority of 6-4 or 8-4, whatever the case may be. But I do notice that there are one of our pods in March Street being leased out to one of the organisations. And what type of dollars is that bringing in? Is it bringing a substantial amount to help ratify these costs here? And are these the same options available to, I think Jacinta Price is coming here on the 25th of September to have a discussion at the Services Club. You know, I don't know, but is that available to the No people as well, or something similar?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So on the subject of the pod, a request came from another organisation called Yes23 as to whether they could rent a pod at full freight from council. I asked staff to tell me whether there was anyone who wanted that pod. No one else wanted that pod. The pod was available. I made the decision to rent it to Yes23. Good income for council, full freight. Jacinta Price's No campaign, if they wanted a pod and there was a pod free, they could apply, absolutely. But the support we're giving to the Yes campaign is based on the resolution of council to promote and support. So if you, for example, wanted to put up a motion written in 8 days' notice to support the No campaign, that would be a matter for council.
No, I'll leave
we would do the same
I'll
thing.
leave that up to the No campaign to come to us, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'd much rather see people make an informed decision, be one that's pressured by anyone.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was a open process. The pod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I just wanted to just sort of basically make a comment that it was great to see so many people at the march on Sunday. I think we had over 300 people there. It was great to see Councillor Mallard and yourself, Mr. Deputy Mayor, there as well, and a strong show from some off-duty council staff members as well, which was really lovely. It was a great experience and a great show of support for the campaign. So,
yeah,
practicing what we're preaching.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and thanks to the staff for the report. And I mean, I consider the few $1,000s that's been contributed in line with implementing the resolution completely reasonable. And I did want to also commend the local Voice working group that has been organising the events, because going to Councillor Duffy's point, they have really focused on informing the community. I attended and spoke at one of the information sessions that was run in the chamber here. I attended the Q&A event with Senator Pocock and other speakers at Hotel Canobolas. They've all been fantastic events that are focused on breaking down the disinformation and misinformation that's coming out of some parts of the No campaign, and putting information to people so that they can understand genuinely what the Voice is about. And I've thought they've done a great job on that. And then I thought the Yes for Orange campaign did a fantastic job on the Walk for Orange, as Councillor McDonald already said. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just really have to acknowledge the person who did this for the detail and the specificity. Arnott's family assorted biscuits, oat milk and full cream milk. Whoever did that, good job.
Through Mr. Chair.
It's a good
Thank
point,
you.
Although, as a matter arising, Councillor Kinghorn, the executive summary states that the vote was done on 6th of December 2023, which is obviously a date in the future. So we should probably correct that to be the right date.
Okay, there be no
Mea
other
culpa.
speakers. We'll put the motion to accept the report of the finance report there. All hands up. All in favour. Thank you very much. Moving on. 5.5. Now, page 75. Thank you, Councillor and Councillor Floyd. And the speakers on this motion?
This might be a matter arising. I have a question. So will I?
Through Mr. Chair, I've got the CFO online, so we'll have a crack at
Is it okay if I ask it now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Are you there, CFO? Here she is. Yep. Question from Councillor Kinghorn about to come.
Surprise. I was just curious about whether we have an investment policy. I know we've got the strategy with the Imperial Markets people, but I just got thinking about it because of the modern slavery stuff that came up, one of the other matters, and I was just curious about whether we have an investment policy in terms of what things we will invest in. Do we go into any detail, or do we just put them into other funds?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have an investment policy. The investment policy detail is sometimes recorded in our report here, detailing our terms of maturity, what investments we can invest in, what credit rating, what holdings we can have within each credit rating.
Does it cover things like, as I said, the trigger for me to ask about it was to do with the modern slavery stuff that came in. I'm talking about investing in cigarette companies, or do we have a policy that extends to that sort of?
Well, the investments that we can make are only according to our investment policy, and they only include what the minister will allow us to invest in.
So there's a state investment policy that we abide by. Is that what you're saying?
Well, each council, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Each council has their own investment policy, but the investment policy is worked on the investment ministerial order. Is that right? I think so.
Okay, so is it possible to get some information about that, or can you direct me to where to read that?
Sure.
Yep,
Thank
we'll
you.
do that. So, and we'll answer the question about can council, be more specific in its investments to say we don't want to invest in cigarette companies anymore. We'll answer that question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, CFO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As regards to the report that we have, I think most of you had a discussion with the auditor. It's very hard not to say how well we've done. It's very hard not to say how well we've done, especially when you look at our neighbours asking for 70% and 40% and all these type of things, increases in their rates. And you look at the comparable things there, it would take them well above us and what we are. And you look at our stability as far as we're comparable with Tamworth, two councils that are probably similar in size and very well managed. And I don't very often praise staff, but I'd like to praise the former director in Jason Cook and our current one, Veronica, for while she's here. But we'll give her a kick when she leaves in the near future. But I just want to thank them for their effort on here, because I think they've given us a great report over the last few years. And we may cop a bit of flack at the moment, but we are in a very, very sound financial position, and we're talking about unrestricted reserves. We're better than most in the western part of New South Wales, west of the mountains, which probably includes the mountains as well. But
any other speakers on the motion? Speakers, I'll put the motion to a vote. All in favour? Thank you very much. We'll move on to 5.6, page 91, 2022-23 financial statements. Can I have a move on?
Move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Happy to second.
Any speakers on? All in favour? Great, thank you. For 5.7, 113.
We'll just get her to leave the chamber, Mr. Chairman.
So Winton and chamber. Have a mover, please. Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
I'll move it for discussion.
Thank you. Move for discussion.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, open for discussion. Thank you.
Chairman, I have to agree with the letter received from the ratepayer as far as I'm concerned, to rename it. But as councillors do know, that road leads on to one of our major subdivisions in the future, and it's going to go well past the CSU. So I can't see why we're going to call it CSU Road when it's probably going to go a lot further along past the CSU. So I think that, and that's not too far away. And when you're talking about far away, you're probably talking about 10 years, but that's not all that far when you look at how quick North Orange developed, and now we're moving into South Orange and that type of thing there. But moves are well and truly afoot with the planning arrangements of that area out there, the old abattoirs and all that there. So I think to rename it something now is a little bit early to make any judgment, whatever, and I think we should probably leave it alone for a certain period of time before we bring it back and have a discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Power. I'm not going to support this. I just a little concerned that the attachment to this comes from CSU, but there's nothing to say that there's been any correspondence with anybody who lives on that road. And knowing what it's like even just to have the number of your street changed and what a big impasse that is, I think it's inappropriate to do this without any consultation with the people who will be affected by it. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just got a question through you to the appropriate director, I'm guessing, or the CEO. The statement by one of the nearby residents mentioned something about that the uni's asked for 2 name changes previously. Is this about this? They've asked the same question twice previously, or?
Through Mr. Chair, Charles Sturt University has only been operating at the site for 17 years, and in that time have requested 2 name changes. I'm not sure they were successful name changes. Perhaps this has been asked for twice, this very thing.
Okay, but you don't have information.
I don't have
at the
any
moment.
detail on that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll put the motion. Those for the motion of renaming Leeds Page. Okay, those against.
Not carried.
I just thought, hold on, what
Carried.
are you doing here, Gerald?
Not.
Thought of myself on that one, sorry. I have the 2 councillors back in the stand. Thank you very much, councillors.
We weren't caucusing.
Okay, we'll move on to 5.8. That is found, thank you, Councillor Duffy, thank you, Councillor Ballard. And we have speakers on this motion. I'll put the motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried, thank you very much. We'll go on to 4.9, found on page 100.
I'll declare an interest again, as mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much, so. Duffy, the seconder.
Just as a comment, this with the CEO could actually have a discussion with the McPhillamy Park project and see whether they can come and address council. I would like to think it's probably going to be enclosed because of commercial matters that are probably we may ask, or whatever the case may be. I think I remember Mr. McCall used to come and have a chat to us about Ridgeway and Cicadia Valley and all those places, so I can't see any difference here.
You there, Mr. Chair? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to comment on page 124, the questions on notice, and I was kind of hoping that Mr. Redmond would be here so I could ask him what he thought about this. But that first question, reading through that and the answer, they just haven't answered the question. And it was just a comment because they've just totally avoided answering the question, and I thought that was annoying.
That was the comment.
I'm just telling you I was annoyed by it. I know.
Sorry,
I know. That's okay.
Any other speakers on the motion? Okay, we'll put the motion to a vote. All in favour? Thank you very much for.
We're now doing 510. 8 item, 510 is now.
Doing the late items, that's 5.10. Okay, small donations and grants program, deferred and out of cycle application.
Just leaving the room.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Floyd. Yes, thank you.
I'm happy to move this one.
Oh, thank you, Mr.
I'll second it. Oh, you got one? Second it, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to second it. And that's both
Speakers,
1
please,
and 2.
Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak for it. So when this came in front of councillors as far as the Finance Policy Committee was there, I supported this 100%. I support it because, number one, the project that is happening up there at Cook Park is a men's project, and it's a place where they can go up and have a bit of a chat, no matter what walk of life they are from. And I knew very well at the time it was funded by people that did attend and didn't come from the actual the local member. But I think we need to be, as I said, we need to be a bit astute with our local member. He's an important cog in the current local government because the current New South Wales government, because he's relied upon to get numbers to go through there. So I think any time we can support projects that he has, but not political projects that where he's going to gain from, I think we should be lending our support. But this one here is just straight out for men to turn up and have a barbecue, have a yarn and tell whatever lies they want to. It depends on who goes there, tell the truth if they want to. But, I think it's a great project. I haven't gone there yet, but I may if I'm allowed, but see what happens.
Can't they tell the truth?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly support the recommendation. In Chamber last time asked for some clarification about a couple of issues, and I thank the local member for making himself available tonight and clarifying those issues, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the issue that I had last time with this was that they hadn't actually filled out, there were a lot of blanks on the form, they just hadn't filled out the form, and I noticed that they still haven't. So I'm just wondering, in relation to these things, if somebody's just left pages blank, how does it get here? Do we not notice that before it comes to council? So, for example, on page 8, your costs, it says not applicable. Simply pay for all required equipment and marketing across all platforms, and then the host sends us the invoice for the food used on the day. Well, if they've got an invoice for the food used on the day, then they know how much. So that's what I found irritating last time, was that they just didn't put the information there, and the fact that it's still not there means that we haven't asked them to do that, even though I'm pretty sure I asked last time if that could be amended. Nobody's ever going to say that this isn't a good cause. Of course it is. And for it's a nice thing to do anyway, but for people to have healthy lives, the most important thing is for them to have social interaction. It's more important than giving up smoking. It does make a big difference to people's lives. So it is very important, and I would never vote against it on that basis. But I do think that if we're going to require people to fill out forms, we should actually enforce that, irrespective of what the cause is.
Councillor Kinghorn, thank you. Yes, we do try and encourage applicants when they send an application in to complete information that hasn't been completed. Sometimes that's very successful, sometimes that's not as successful, but we do encourage them. In this case, we did call the applicant and we spoke to them over the phone and included the additional information in the report rather than refilling the application and resubmitting. Yes, absolutely, we do try to assist in the application process, and it varies is probably my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, yes, absolutely support this. And I mean, as it was last time, and no one here was against supporting it, we just wanted the clarification to make sure we were dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. I'd just like to thank the Director and staff for providing that information, and I'm more than happy to support the recommendation.
Okay. Any other speakers? There being no other speakers, I'll put them in favour. Carried, moved. Thank you very much. May I have Chamber, please? Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Executive Officer will now advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by a closed meeting of the Orange City Council.
There have been no such items, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993, Local Government General Regulations 2021, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following business is of a kind as referred to the Section 10A brackets 2 of the Act and should be dealt with in a confidential session of council meeting close to press and public.
Just a point of clarification first. We're doing Mountain Hope Church.
Yeah, that's what I
It
thought.
wasn't in
There was
Syria
a few
item.
people actually mentioned.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Because they were, sorry, is that? Yeah,
Yeah,
because they were wrapped
you've
together.
proved
And I
them
waited
both,
until
yeah.
somebody mentioned, then I was right. Thanks, sir. Now that the thing, I'll just continue.
Wait for
Sorry.
going closed, waiting for. We've got a
Does the
resolution
motion to go into
closed.
close?
Do we?
Resolution going closed.
I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to move motion.
Seconder.
Yep.
Have a seconder. I'll second it.
Yep.
I haven't got my name on there. I better second it. Thank you. All in favour?
All in favour? Yeah.